Hello, this is Brian Hagney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design. Alright, we are here. We are at the moment. We are going to model. We've got this strange, huge cylinder in our scene. You can make yours as big as you want. Uh, as big as you want. Doesn't matter. Let's just start. Get a cylinder on your screen. Now, I'm going to go to front view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one leg. That's what we will do. We will start with the leg. When we model the leg, we are going to learn how we model much of the body. Not all of the body, but much of the body. And so it's going to go to, let's go ahead to the Modify tab and select the cylinder, which, you know what, I'm going to call this Standard Male. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that name cylinder. I'm going to go change the radius and the height to match roughly the leg. There. And I'm going to move it here. All right. That's pretty good. Maybe a little thinner. Yeah. Something like that. That's fine. All right. Now it's time to add an edit poly. I could have done some calculations to figure out how many edge loops it needs, but I didn't feel like it. I'm going to go to my whatever that's called. Polygon selection mode. Select the top, hit delete. Select the bottom, hit delete. Nothing really changed. I'm going to go ahead and keep this, rename this as EP dash delete ends. Now I did that to make my life a little bit easier as we move forward. So I'm going to add another edit polygon. What did that do to make my life easier? Well, when I go into edge selection mode in my edit poly, I can now double click the very top and get an edge selection. So it just so happens that if I'm going to make a duplicate of this so you can see copy. I'm going to delete actually this one that deleted the ends. So now I have two very similar polygons or cylinders, but one of them has top and bottom. I just wanted to show you that so that when I go into this one and go into edge selection mode, and I can double click around here and select the entire edge loop, but if I double click the top, it doesn't select the entire edge loop. It's just my workflow. It's a little bit easier. I guess I'm more used to double clicking, so that's why I did that. If you don't like that, I guess you don't have to do it, but that's what I'm doing. Alright, so let's do our first move. So what you need to know, and this is a huge mistake that I used to see all the time with students, and it's not understanding that our dude is, or our woman, whoever it is their lines going through their body, look, it's not straight. And if you ever take a drawing class, you'll note even this, like, stand straight up. Well, our bodies are connected in ways that the lines that go through the center of each appendage and each part of our body is not straight. And if I were to go to this here in my left view, the line here is a little bit crooked. The line going from the center of the kneecap to the center of the pelvis, right, or this part right here, it's a little bit crooked. Our back is arched, our neck is forward, our arm is back here, right? So what we need to do when we model is, like, I shouldn't see any of these lines here stayed parallel to the ground. These should not be 180 degrees like that. And you'll see how we do that, how we change it. Let's go ahead and work with what we have. I'm going to drag this, okay, whoops, let me just make sure. I'm going to double click the top, and I'm going to move it, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to scale it. And when I scale it, you can't quite see this. When I scale it, I am selecting this inner triangle, not this triangle, and not just this one side, and not just this one axis. I am scaling it from the center. And the reason being, I really want to keep this, when I do this first part, I want to keep this as uniformly scaled as possible. I'm going to turn the reference images back on. And so it's, scaling this, moving it, and that's pretty good right now. I'm going to keep that as it is. Okay. Now watch what happens though when I go to, I'm going to keep this selected, when I go to my left view. Well, number one, the entire cylinder isn't moved. So what I'm going to do is unclick select by edge. And when I unclick that, I'm actually selecting the entire polygon as a whole, and I'm just going to move it over. There we go. All right. And actually, this size is actually pretty good for its hip right now, so I'm not too worried about that. If I was going to go ahead and do something to this, I might now scale it in this direction. Because what we did in front view, when I scaled it using the inner triangle, that's scaling it in X and Y and Z equally. It's all together, so in 3 axes. Now, when I go to my left view, I might have to just wiggle it in the one direction that I wasn't able to see. And if I go into front view, I'm not able to see like how wide his belly is forward, right? I'm not able to see the distance from his belly to his back, and that's why. So I'm going to scale in all 3 axes here, not just 2, all 3, and then go to my left view, and then take that, finish it up with the last 3rd axis. Okay. Same thing with this. Now I can take this here, and I can move it, and I can scale it. Again, I want to scale it in all axes. Move it. And you might think you're done, but remember I talked about rotating, because this leg is actually should be rotated a little bit in this axis. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Now I'm going to go to my front view and see that I also need to rotate it this way. And when I scale it, I do need to scale it in this way. Just finish up that last direction. Move it. Go to my left view, and that's pretty good. I'm going to center this one on my knee. And again, I guess the point that I also want to make here is there's no right way to start. Maybe I start in my right view, or left view, maybe I start in my front view, maybe I start perpendicular. No, you don't want to do that. Not yet. So front view or left view, do you move it first or do you scale it first? You can do anything you want first. And the other thing that you might want to consider is the idea that I'm working in one viewport. Maybe I hit Alt-W and I set my viewport up to look at my front view here and my side view here. So I'm going to go to my left view here. I'm going to tap F3 to actually see it, and F4 to see my edged faces. Move this down a little bit. Move this over so I can make my screen as big as possible. And now, when I move in one viewport, I can see it updating in my left viewport. And so again, this is my front view in my right. I'm going to tap Scale in all directions. See, what would happen if I just scaled it in this direction? I don't see that update here. And then if I scaled it in this direction, it still could look a little bit weird. So I'm going to just Control-Z, Control-Z. The easiest thing for me is to scale it in all 3 directions here. Whoops! Make sure this is back on left. Move it, and then scale it in the one direction here. And of course, rotate it just a little bit. And rotate this just a little bit. Scale that. Rotate it. Move it. Okay. And of course, you are going to do the same exact thing for everything else. Now, you notice I'm not getting everything here, right? And so that's going to be the issue, is that we're going to need to give ourselves enough polygons eventually. There we go. To actually make this look good. For right now, I'm just making sure the ones that I have here are going to work. And while I do this, part of me wants to just pause it right now, but I want you to see how methodical I am, how much I'm moving back and forth, back and forth. You know what? I'll make the legs, I'll make the feet later. how much you need to move this back and forth in both viewports. You really don't need 3 viewports yet. All of your work could be done in 2 viewports, because really these represent every single axis. 2 axes here in the front, 2 axes here in the left, and that's 4 axes, and 3 of those are the ones that make 3D. So here's the leg. If I look at it in my 3D perspective mode, turn on full opacity, and hold this down, that is a beautiful leg. Now it's not finished. What I'm going to do is no, I'm not going to pause it. I'm just going to show you this beautiful leg. And now what I'm going to do is go into my front view. I'm going to add verts here. So I'm going to finish with this edit poly. I'm going to add another one. And I'm going to go into Swift Loop. Before I do, I'm going to make sure I have this turned down. And I want to talk about, for animating and actually in general, your joints should have at least, well, probably 3 series of edge loops close together. So once I added these, I can go ahead and make sure they're scaled and rotated properly. Okay, that's probably going to, that's pretty good. They're rotated well. Here, I'm going to rotate them like this. Rotate this one like that. Scale this out. I'm going to scale this center one out because that knee is a little bit bobblier. There we go. And in this side, it's a little bit thinner like that. Okay. There we go. And then, of course, I'm going to add one to get this calf muscle a little bit better. So I'm going to add a Swift Loop here, right-click it. Once I add it, I'm going to scale this out, move it. And in this view, again, scale that back in, move it, scale this one. It could be scaled a little more, maybe move this down a little bit more. And I'm still going to be thinking about how it's rotated. That's fine. Probably going to add a third one here anyway, a Swift Loop here, and what that's going to do is make this a little bit more muscular. There we go. Okay, good. I'm going to have an ankle here, so this is going to need a little bit of finesse as well. I'm going to make this, drag this in, drag this out, drag this out a little bit, move it, and then of course add my Swift Loop for the ankle, scale it, rotate it, rotate it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's even take a look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off edged faces. And what I'm going to do is show you what that looks like with it off and with it on, right? So you can see I formed that calf a lot better. Again, this is only an 8-sided cylinder that I've rotated, moved, and scaled. And what I also want you to see is look at those edge loops. Those edge loops are not just flat. They are not flat. They are not perfectly straight up and down anymore. You need to rotate, scale, move. Rotate, scale, move. Rotate, scale, move. That's how you start the leg. And in the next video, I'm just going to show you how we move up the body to the torso. Okay?